How you doing, good people? This is the 8-Bit Animal. Okay, so wrestling titles have been pretty much a part of the landscape of video games since the 80s with the NES and the Sega Master System. The NES, Sega Master System, and even the Atari 2600 had wrestling titles in their libraries. Now, fast forward to the 16-bit console generation, and there wasn't a wrestling title released on those consoles until 1992. And today I will discuss the Super NES version of one of those titles. It is it was a World Wrestling Federation title, now known as World Wrestling Entertainment, and this precedes the deal with THQ, their current deal. So this title was released under the Acclaim LJN umbrella, and it is WWF Super Wrestlemania. Now, Super Wrestlemania is a follow-up almost. You could almost say it's a follow-up to the very first WrestleMania game released on the Nintendo Entertainment System by Acclaim. But it follows that first WrestleMania title, WrestleMania Challenge, and WrestleMania Challenge, and was released along the same time as Steel Cage Challenge. That's what I want to say. I'm not 100% sure about that. But anyway, it featured 10 wrestlers, the Super NES version did. And it lacked something that the Sega Genesis had, and that's signature moves. The Genesis version had signature moves, but it only had 8 wrestlers. The Super Nintendo version featured Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Jake the Snake Roberts, The Undertaker, Sid Justice, Hawk and Animal, collectively Legion of Doom, and Earthquake and Typhoon, collectively known as the Natural Disasters. Now, while it didn't feature signature moves, it did have, for that point, it had pretty good gameplay for it being the first wrestling title released on the Super NES. The animation was okay. The graphics were a big jump ahead of what we saw on the previous consoles, and while it didn't feature digitized speech, it did feature a pretty good interpretation of several WWE stars, their entrance music. This game was followed by WWF WrestleMania, which was also released on the Super NES and the Genesis. And while the graphics were the same, both titles had special moves, and there was a little bit of change to the grapple system in the games. Whereas Royal Rumble and its predecessor, its follow-up, WWF Raw, featured this button tap. You tap the buttons faster than me, you get to pull off your move type gameplay. Super WrestleMania didn't really feature that. It was more a timing-based thing. A combination of a timing-based thing and a button mashing thing, I should say. So there were instances where it just felt kind of clunky. Now, if you really want to play this game, honestly, I would honestly suggest Saturday Night Slam Masters if you're looking for a wrestling title on the Super NES. It's a much better game. But if you really need a copy of Super WrestleMania that bad, you can probably find one for about $2 on eBay. It's not a hard game to find, and it's a pretty easy one to pick up. it's not one of those titles that's really high in demand. This has been the 8-Bit Animal, and I will catch you beautiful people tomorrow.